As always, I'm your host, Aaron, and today I'm joined by Simon Wyatt. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's actually Wyatt Simon.
Oh my
So
God.
common
Strong
occurrence.
start, that. Strong start. Wyatt Simon. Sorry, mate. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. Well, I'm probably best known for I built a $20 million real estate portfolio in my 20s. And then I built several other businesses, and now I get to help other people build wealth and live a life of freedom. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
How did you get into kind of real estate and stuff then?
Yeah, so I didn't start off like that. That's for dang sure. I actually failed at my first job out of college, right? To be honest with you, did not care about much at all except for basketball. Like, loved basketball as a kid, got B's because that's what my parents told me I had to get in school. So it was like, just do whatever I had to do, never read a book, just played basketball as hard as I could. Went off to play college basketball at Doane College, which is a super small school in the middle of nowhere in the United States in Nebraska. And that was where 5'11" white guys played basketball, which was me. And it was about junior year in college that I realized I wasn't going to make it to the NBA. And at that point, it was like, okay, well, what should I do with my life? Because I've been centered around basketball my entire life. And I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You ever heard of that book, Aaron?
Yeah, I got that.
Awesome. So awesome book, The Purple Bible. And that book really taught me that, assets can work for you while you sleep so that you don't have to work for money. And I was like, man, I don't want to keep trading my time for money the rest of my life. So it was that systematic book that planted the seed. And then there was a lot more stories of me, failing and failing and failing until we got something right, and then failed a whole lot more after that until I got another thing right. But it was the Rich Dad Poor Dad, to answer your question, is what started everything.
Cool. It's real estate for me. So I invest. I don't have any real estate. I do kind of just stocks and shares, essentially, invest and different kind of stuff. But how do you get into kind of real estate? Because surely you need a lot of capital for that, right?
It's a great question. And, that was the first thing that I encountered, was like, okay, you have to have so much money to do this. I knew that Rich Dad Poor Dad told me, it was like, okay, get assets. There's one problem. I literally had a negative net worth. I was failing at my job. Like, I was so broke. I rented a house with three other dudes. I put my house, my room, on Airbnb and slept on the couch just so I could like pay rent and go to concerts with my buddies. Like, I was broke. So yeah, I was like, okay, well, how do I do this without money? So then I realized, I was like, okay, well, all these real estate investors, they're not buying these big buildings cash. They're actually getting loans. So I was like, okay, well, now I just need to figure out how to get a loan from a bank. And so I went to a loan officer from a bank and I said, hey, I'm looking to buy like a duplex. I want to live in one side, I want to rent out the other. And he's like, well, I can't give you a loan. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you have to have a W-2 job, which just means a salaried job. I was commission only in sales. And so he turned me away. And it was at that point I gave up and I never bought any real estate. Wrong. Right. So then the next thing happens. I said, okay, well, how can I get a loan for real estate then? It's like, well, you have to have a salaried job so that I can show you have money coming in consistently so that I can give you a loan. I was like, okay. So then I went job searching, and I at first could not find, I applied job after job after job, could not find a job that was salaried that accepted me that I also wanted. And so eventually it was about 2.5 months of me job searching where I found one that was not where I wanted to be. It was in Nebraska. It was in Omaha, Nebraska. But I was like, you know what? Like, this is my ticket. I'm going to do it. So I took that job, and then I got approved for a loan, and I was able to buy a duplex, and I lived in one side and I rented out the other. And at that point, I was actually able to take my biggest expense, which was my rent every single month. And I was paying rent every single month, right? And I was able to take that biggest expense and I was able to wipe it out because I was able to live in one side and have the other tenant pay for my mortgage. So I was essentially living for free. And now all that money that I was spending on rent, I could save for the next property.
Smart. We don't really do that in the UK, like have duplexes and like fourplexes and whatever else you call them. We have like standalone homes. It makes it a bit more difficult, I suppose. But what is a duplex? Is it like one property essentially, but just kind of split into like two flats or something similar?
Yeah, I could think about it as like a one property, one big box that's built and then split in half. And so it shares one wall. And the particular duplex I lived in was a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom on the main floor. And then below it, it had room for a garage on each side. And then I actually converted the empty space down there into another bedroom on my side. And so, yeah, but
Cool.
duplexes are just standalone boxes that split in half.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So you got that, you started saving up, and then I assume you went and bought some more property as soon as you could.
Yeah. And the next thing was I was like, okay, this worked. I was able to just erase my mortgage, my rent payment. Like, this is awesome. Like, how do I get more of these? Well, problem was, it was like, well, you have to pay 20% down to get more of these. And if you're talking about like a $200,000 house, which is cheap now, right? But $200,000 house, like that's 50 grand. Like, oof, that's going to take me a long time to save up. And so then I learned about this little strategy called the BIR strategy. And the BIR strategy stands for buy, rent, refinance, repeat. And so the reason that's so powerful is you can buy a property, improve it, just like if you were to flip it, do the bathroom, do the kitchen, do the flooring, do the paint, have it be worth more. And then instead of actually just selling it and flipping it and taking your money, you can actually just buy it, improve it, and then the bank will give you a larger loan balance on it and pay you your money back as long as you improved it enough. And now you can rent that out and keep a tenant in there. So you can basically get a property for free. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, that was light bulb moment when that happened. And so at that point forward, I was like, okay, I'm going to do as many BIRs as I can. And from that point forward, I'll just tell you the first one, it took me 6 months to find. So it was my 46th offer. And I finally had somebody say yes. I did it. And then, by the way, I'm not handy at all. Like, I am not a handy guy. And so when it came to fixing it up, I was like, geez. So I asked a buddy that was on my basketball team. He was the center of our basketball team. I was like, Nate, I know you grew up on the farm. Like, would you rehab this house with me? And like, just, I'll pay you $25 an hour. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'll work under you. Like, can we do this thing? And so literally for 6 more months after work, because I had a full-time job, after work, we're going to the property, we're fixing it up. I threw my back out on the property, jackhammering concrete, like all the things, dude. And we finally got it rented. And then finally I took it to the bank and I bought it for 100. It appraised at 150. I'd put 22K into it. 80% of 150 is 122. So the bank gave me a loan for is 120. The bank gave me a loan for 120. I was 122 into it. So essentially I bought that house for 2 grand and got a tenant in there. And it was just like, boom, proof of concept again. There we go. And then fast forward, I've had a lot of other failures, but long story short, I've done the BIR strategy now over 40 times on both single family and multifamily buildings with 6-figure and 7-figure exits. And so it's a great strategy.
Do you ever sell any of them, or you just kind of holding them and renting them all out?
Sometimes. Depends on what the exit strategy is. But yeah, we, I bought and sold over 40 properties last year.
Sounds like a lot of work, man. Do they all need work when you buy them, or they all kind of refurb as well?
So it depends. The way that we have done it now, like, I guess fast forward. So in my journey, went from doing the BIR strategy to built a portfolio. And once I got to a certain point, I stepped away from my job and I started a property management company. And that was a whole grind in itself. Now I've got 6 full-time employees that run the property management company and the portfolio. So I'm really not too involved in that anymore. And then we started buying homes and just reselling them. And we got to a point where we have so much demand now on investors that we'll just buy them and sell them to investors that want to do the work, because we got really good at finding where the deals are.
Yeah, I suppose because that's the thing that would be probably annoying for me is kind of dealing with tenants and looking after properties and people and stuff and all the complaints and all the other stuff that you probably get.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody. I can tell you. Yeah, I I can tell you one story. So I had my wife and I are sitting on the couch one day, and I just hear this this huge, this bike just pulls up in our neighborhood. There's a big Harley. You can just hear the motor just humming, and then it parks right outside of our duplex that we're living in. And my wife's like, "Do you know this guy?" I'm like, no. This huge guy in a Harley pulls up to our door, knocks on the door. Is Wyatt home? I'm like, he knows my name. Okay. So I open the door. He's like, "Hey, this is Mike. You owe me money." Like, okay, this guy that I've never met before is asking for money and knows where me and my wife live. My wife is freaking out on the couch, right? She's like, this is not okay. So I step outside and I talk to him, and turns out my maintenance tech that was a full-time employee that was supposed to be rehabbing a unit for us was subcontracting. He had hired this guy unbeknownst to me, and was still recording that he was doing work, even though this guy on the Harley was doing the work. And then he told the guy on the Harley that I wasn't paying him and that he needed to come after me for payment. And so after we uncovered this, I let him know this is what was going on, and that I could show him receipts of me actually paying the maintenance tech that I fired, right, shortly thereafter. To which Mike on the Harley said, "I don't care." And I said, "You got to go after this guy, because like I don't have your money. Like I've already paid this guy." And he steps closer to me, just takes one step at me and says, "You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip," meaning the other guy's a deadbeat and I want my money. And so eventually, me and Dirty Mike, as I lovingly refer to him, came up with a settlement where he went away, and then I let go of the terrible maintenance tech. And my wife and I moved locations.
That is not ideal, I'd say. Not ideal. I mean, it's quite clever from
Yeah.
that tech, though. To be fair, to get somebody else to do all his work for him.
Well, not so clever when you're out of a home, out of a job. Yeah, just a dumbass in general, to be honest with you. But I tell you this story because honestly, if you're going to get into real estate, you got to ask yourself what kind of a person you want to be. Like, do you want to be a passive real estate investor, or do you want to be a real estate operator? Because those are two very different things. People a lot of times get into real estate saying, I want to get into real estate for these passive cash flow, but then they end up dealing with Dirty Mike and the tenants and all these other things. But it's like, in all reality, you can be a real estate investor by just buying a property and hiring a property manager and not having to do with anything, right? That is the passive cash flow people talk about.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people that I know do. Is they'll do the work on the front end, but then they'll get a property management company in to put tenants in to manage the tenants because they don't want to do that side of it.
Yeah. There's businesses in everything. And in real estate, there's several businesses, right? And so you got to realize, do you want to be in a certain business, or do you just want to be the investor? And so if you're doing the work on the property, then you're in the contracting business. If you're giving the loan on the property, then you're in the loan business. If you're finding the deal, you might be in the realtor business, right? Or the wholesaling business. Or if you're managing properties, then you're in the property management business. You're not in real estate as a real estate investor. You're doubling up.
Yeah, and a lot of those areas can be a lot of work as well, right? I think a lot of people who have this idea, "Oh, I'll just get passive income," but then if they plan on doing it themselves as well, I don't think they realize quite how much work goes into it.
Yeah. I mean, passive income is passive. If you're doing work, it's not passive.
No, and there's a lot to do if you get a good deal on a house, a lot of the time they need a bit of work, or you need to do something with them to freshen them up at the very least. So you got that on the front end, and then if you haven't got a management company, then managing the client and everything else is that's a lot of work as well. But it can be. It depends on the client, I suppose.
The client, the location. Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah. You say location. Do you buy all your properties kind of in a commutable distance, in a reasonably commutable distance?
I do. And I do advise people to buy in your backyard. I just think it makes sense. You can go check on it if you need to. I mean, there's really not a lot of truly passive things in this world. It's just a lot of highly leveraged activities. So you can be pretty highly leveraged and pretty hands off if you're still buying in your backyard and just being able to do quality control on things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have this kind of dream of passive income, don't they? With loads of stuff, with real estate, with lots of things, but ultimately, especially at the start when you're new to stuff, things require a bit of work.
They do. It always does. You should inspect what you expect.
What do you mean by that?
So it's just true in everything in life, right? Like, so I have four other businesses, right? I've got a seven-figure business, I've got three other six-figure businesses, and in all of this, it's like I have done multiple times where I have delegated things to employees, and they haven't done it right. Who's to blame there? It's me. It's me because I either haven't had a good enough process or training around it. Right. And so if you just delegate things to someone and don't inspect what you expect, then they can literally do whatever they want. Right. You have to go hold them accountable to the end result. And so that's why when you go to delegate things, whether even if it's just buying a property with a property manager, like our property managers get managed by the asset managers. Right. And so the property managers report on the property's performance to the asset managers on a biweekly or once a month cadence so that they get held accountable to the expectations of the property's performance that we have set when we bought the property to begin with.
Fair enough. I kind of see that. I think comprehension's key, isn't it? Whenever you got kind of staff and you want them to do stuff, or people working for you in whatever guise, if they're a contractor, wherever. I think everybody says communication's key, but I think it's comprehension's key, right? They need to understand your vision and what you actually want to achieve.
For sure. Yeah, you have to comprehend it, but at the end of the day, it falls on the leader. If you want to get somewhere, it people are only I like to classify people as A, B, C, and D. Right? A players will make it happen no matter what. They don't need any direction. They literally, you just tell them what to do, or like you tell the vision, and they will just go do it. They don't need any instructions. B players, they need some instructions. There can be some blanks in the instructions, but they need some instructions to get there. They need for the end result. C players need all the instructions. Like there can't be one thing missing, or else the C player will not get the result. And then the D players, no matter how good your instruction is, they're not going to get there. They just need help. Okay. And so we are all A, B, and C, D people, right? And so the question is, where do you fall on that scale? Wherever you fall on that scale, you'll never attract the talent that is going to be above you. So if you're not an A-class leader, you'll never get A-class people, right? And so to your point, comprehension, like you're always going to be capped. The company is always going to be capped around the leadership that is there. And so a lot of the times business is just this refinement of bettering our standards that we live with so that we can attract better people to then give them opportunities to work within the systems that we've built.
How do you go about doing that then, Wyatt? How do you kind of improve yourself so that you can kind of bring people with you in that way?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a story, Aaron. That's a great question. So when I left my job, I was doing very well at my job, but I had also built probably a $12 million portfolio at that point. And so I was ready to go away from the W-2, the job, and start doing this thing. And what I did is I was using a third-party property manager, but I decided I wanted to take property management in-house. So I started a property management company. which proved to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Okay, so to give you context, I passed out 4 times from stress in 2022. Legitimately, what happened to me was I was a C, maybe B level leader, and I attracted C and maybe B level talent, and D's, by the way. D's and C's were really what I attracted because I was a C, maybe a B. And so then I worked with people that, to your point, Aaron, didn't comprehend. And it was miserable because I wasted so much time training them only for me to have to fire them or for them to just take a different opportunity because it wasn't working out. And so it was just like years of my life just wasted trying to deal with C and D's. It was just terrible, right? And so what then happened, to answer your question, is like, how do you not have this happen? Well, I hired a consultant. I said, please, I don't want to fail for, I wasn't even failing forward. It was failing sideways. I wasn't making any progress. And so how can I not have that happen is I hired a consultant, and that consultant taught me how to build systems. That consultant had a way higher standards than I had. And so he reset my expectations for what standards can be within an organization. And then I started living within that, which then got me from a C or B all the way up to an A. And then what that allowed me to do is I attracted B's and then even some A's. And as soon as I got B's and A's on my team with systems, my entire life changed.
Yeah, I suppose that does make it easy, especially if you've got a system that's repeatable and that people can kind of, follow and stuff. It just almost makes it foolproof, right?
Close as you can.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say you bring all these people in, do they work under you for your company, or do you contract a lot?
So I have 9 full-time employees that work for my companies. Yeah. And
How
then
do
we
you
do
find that?
contract out a lot of work as well.
Yeah, because contracting out, obviously you have a little less responsibility for those people, the individuals, right? Because you can get new contractors in pretty quickly, pretty easily. But when you've got staff members working for you, directly for you, then you have an extra level of responsibility to their welfare, to looking after them, to making sure they're okay. So how do you find that rather than contractors? How do you find managing, your staff?
Yeah, you do. When you have employees, you're responsible for their financial futures of their families, right? And so it is a responsibility. To the flip side, if you're just contracting out, you don't have full control over these contractors. They can go do whatever they want. They can go take another job, right? And so when we really sat down and looked at it, we wanted to really operate better, more efficiently. When we had turns and remodels and things that we needed to get done, and we were at the mercy of contractors that showed up and had delays, well, now we didn't have control over that. So at this point, we said, all right, how can we take this in house and have a lot better control over the outcome that we want? And that was when we started to hire full time individuals, and we provided them a good opportunity with good leadership, hopefully they feel. And yeah, you just, everything in life is you have a client journey, you have a value system, right? And so we cast the vision of the company, we say our core values for our company, and then we go out there and we only find people that are good fit for the company. And that's how you build a culture.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? Get people that actually fit, and that's crucial with all recruitment, really. And I think where a lot of people go wrong is they don't set that out before they hire people. They don't know what kind of values that they want, um, because otherwise, when we're just interviewing people, they might tick all the boxes in an interview, but when they come and have to work alongside us, they might be completely opposite in the way that they operate, their values that they have, and the maybe even the work ethic that they bring to the team. There can be a lot of differences that are almost intangible when you come, if you're just doing an interview talking about this is your roles and responsibilities without including the culture element.
Yeah, on every single interview. So we have 5 core values that we run our company on. And on every single interview, we're not moving forward unless we check every single box that they check our boxes, right? They could be the most skilled person in the world, but if you're not going to fit our company's culture, then we don't want you.
How do you kind of develop that culture even more when you got people on board? So within your team, how do you develop the culture and keep growing really? Because if you're not growing and moving forward, you're going backwards really, right? Because everybody else is.
Yeah. So we run on a rhythm. So you develop rhythms within the company so that things continue to move forward, right? One of the rhythms that we do from Traction, it's sitting on my bookshelf over here, is we run what's called level 10 meetings. So every single Monday, we have a cadence to how we run our meetings. And that cadence helps us, number one, build culture. Number two, share successes. Number three, fix any issues that we have within the company and get anything that there is out there while we're all together. So that's the purpose of a level 10 meeting. It doesn't just stop there though. We also have checks and balances, right? So every single day, every employee is responsible for creating an end of day report for what they did that day and just recapping that. And by the way, we also have scoreboards for every single employee's performance. So every single employee has a key performance metric, KPI, key performance indicator, KPI, for what they're responsible for. For example, our property managers are responsible for keeping the properties occupied, right? And so they say, what is their occupancy for their region? And that's broadcasted along with how many leads they had, along with how many showings they had, along with how many applications they had, along with how many leases they had every single day. And then they report on their performance within that end of day report.
That's cool. Do you discuss any kind of the intangible stuff while you're in their meetings, the kind of stuff that you can't measure? Because the stuff that you can measure is easy, right? Because you've got the statistics, you can, the hard facts and numbers. You can say this is where we're at, this is working, this isn't working. But what about the kind of like softer skills and the stuff around that that's difficult to measure?
I mean, everything is measurable. We make it very simple. You have 1 to 3 metrics that you are responsible for hitting. You hit that, you'll keep your job. If you don't hit that, you'll get put on a performance improvement plan. If you can't do that, then you will be let go. And so the intangibles, like you said, is the reason why I passed out 4 times from stress. Like you can try to make it too complicated, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Like you're either doing your job or you're not. And like at the end of the day, we don't pay you to have intangibles that don't mean anything because we're losing money.
Yeah, I get that. I suppose from my point of view, I think I get why you need performance metrics, and performance is important, especially when you're running a business. You need ultimately you need the money coming in. But I still think there are intangibles that are important that you need to consider, that you can't just brush aside. And you have other factors, don't you, in people's lives, stuff going on and stuff like that. You can't separate and somebody who comes to work to do a job, who might be doing a good job, from all these other factors in their life that no doubt will have an impact on them at some point.
Yeah. How many employees do you have, Aaron?
I don't have any employees as such. I kind of I've worked in supervisor roles a lot, and I've supervised a lot of staff. And from my experience, anecdotally, I find that people are better on it when you deal with them on a human level rather than statistical. If you get the human level right, the rest follows, in my experience.
Well, I appreciate your perspective. Yeah. We we do we do deal with the human level. However, that's why we give an opportunity for a performance improvement plan, right? If someone's not performing, we figure out why. We give them everything we can to equip them to be successful. But it's on them to do it. It's not on us.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that. I think just from, obviously, it just sounds really cutthroat. To be fair to me, that sounds quite like straight to it. So when does the performance improvement plan come out? After a month of not hitting targets?
Depends on what the target is. If we see a pattern, then we will talk to them. If that pattern continues, then we will write up a performance improvement plan with equipping them everything they need. And then if the pattern continues, at that point, we have to make a change.
Yeah, it's just getting that balance right, isn't it? I mean, there's a place for it, definitely, and I think it's just about getting that balance right and doing it in the way that gives them enough of an opportunity, really. Because I suppose with anything in life, there are peaks and troughs and waves, and nothing is ever perfectly linear. So to expect something to be linear, and if it's not, then go, oh, you got on a performance improvement plan is a bit much.
We expect it not to be continuing on a downward trend. So if it is linearly continuing on a downward trend, we have an issue.
Yeah, I agree. If the overall trend continues down, then that is an issue. But I suppose you just got to allow a little bit of wiggle room for the waves and the inevitable fluctuation, right? Because business, life, everything is it's like the stock market, right? You're after that overall trend, but there's going to be ups and downs within that. It's not going to be a straight line up because that's just not practical, right?
For sure. And we don't expect it to be practical, but we do expect it to go in the right direction most of the time, right?
Yeah,
And I will say too, I mean, maybe it sounds cutthroat, but like we do a lot for our employees. Like there's our employees right now, like one of our employees is having her father's in the hospital, right? And so we're giving her time off right now. And she's not hitting all of her trends right now, but we're still giving her time off to let her have the healing that she needs with what's going on in her personal life. So it's not like we don't care about employees. It's not like we don't do things for them, but we sure as hell measure them and hold them accountable to the expectations that we set.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about as well. Is that kind of stuff. Then these personal things, no doubt, happen in people's lives, right? But we got to be conscious of that. Sorry, my dog's going wild in the background. You got to be conscious of that. You got to help people out and kind of sort them out and give them that time where they need it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like sounds like you just be the best employer to work for, Aaron. I want to come work for you.
Oh, I don't know about that. I have my own issues, but I'm just playing devil's advocate really, and kind of getting the other side of it and seeing, as with anything in life, it's a dichotomy, right? There's two sides to everything, and we've got to get that balance right. So I just I don't know. I'm quite a person people rather than numbers. I suppose I've always been kind of that way. I see the importance in numbers. I just don't like to hang everything on it.
That's great.
Do you disagree?
Aaron, you have no employees, so I respect your opinion, but it doesn't hold very much weight. And I have swung both ways. I used to do exactly what you said. And guess what? I got stepped on. I passed out 4 times from stress. My wife said, "What are you doing? Like, we might just need to stop everything that you're doing." Right? The doctor said you might have to stop everything you're doing. And then I hired a consultant of a multi-million-dollar company, and they who are much smarter than me told me exactly how to do this. And I've seen this done, right? And after that point, everything changed. And so you got to realize you got to take advice from people are where you want to be. And in my opinion, in my hallucination of my perspective of the world, this is how it actually works. And it has worked and it has not worked. And then it has worked now.
Yeah, I suppose it's a journey though, isn't it, to go through? Because obviously you didn't start where you are now, and like you say, you've gone through a journey to get where you are now.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, man. It's one of those, isn't it? And you kind of learn things by going through stuff and by doing stuff, right? Because I suppose half the stuff now, you probably at the beginning you probably didn't have a clue. You didn't even have a clue you'd be facing the problems that you faced throughout, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. Like this is the narrow path that I've went on. It was very difficult. It was very challenging. And to another point, like guess how much I paid for that consultant? It was a lot
Well,
of money.
yeah, I bet they're
A
not cheap.
lot of money, right? I've paid over $200,000 US in private education to get me to a place where I am now. And even then, I continually invest in my education through private investments, right? For people, so I can buy into the rooms of the people that are where I want to be, right? And so it's, I mean, anybody can take advice from anybody, but I'd encourage everybody to say, okay, where do I want to be? What does their life look like? What are their relationships like in their life? What's their relationship look like with their creator? What's their personal fitness look like? And if you're looking for business and finances, well, how much money do they actually have? And if you want to take advice from someone who's broke, then you're going to get broke advice. But if you want to take someone from who's been there and done that, then you got to pay to be in those rooms, or maybe you're lucky and you can be in proximity. But proximity changes everything. Everything comes down to the people that we surround ourselves with. And I realized that my college buddies were not where I wanted to be. Right? I hang out with my college buddies, I go to bars and I drink and I do stupid stuff. And so my life changed when I started buying to be in those rooms and then hanging out with other people that understood how business worked and really started to unlock a higher standard. Again, moving from C to B to A of standards, right? And like you could say I'm an A standard, you could say I'm a B standard. I've got buddies that I hang out with that I'm like, holy crap, man, they stretch me, right? Like they are A plus standards. And if
Yeah,
you got people like that make you feel like that, you will grow.
yeah, I did an episode yesterday with a lady about mentorship, and well, we touched on aging a little bit as well, but the majority of it was about mentorship and surrounding yourself by people who you can learn from, almost like a spider's web, really, where you're in the middle and you're kind of reaching out and trying to create these connections with people where you can, learn from, not necessarily having a formal relationship where you're getting coaching or teaching, whilst they are valuable stuff. It's about seeing how people operate, being around people who, you want to learn from, who can give you valuable stuff. And, there's a lot of people out there that you can surround yourself with who can give you those little different areas. And it doesn't have to be one person for everything, if you know what I mean. So like you could learn business off somebody, you could have family values of somebody else and different things like that. And you can kind of intertwine it all. And that's quite an interesting way to go. I know a lot of people like yourself pay to be around specific people or whatever. But there are those that are lucky enough to have people in their lives that they could probably lean on, go to, spend a day with or two, and start to learn and pick up some of these skills, really.
Pick up some. Yeah. I can tell you, yeah, I've had people in my life that, God's grace, like I've been able to, pick their brain, as you say. By the way, I cringe when I hear that word. People ask me, can I pick your brain? It's like, ugh. But I was able to have some people that helped me along this journey. The thing is like those people that helped me, they helped me one time. Maybe they helped me twice. Maybe they helped me 3 times. But like the people that I've paid for have helped me 1,000 times. Right. And so in this entrepreneurship journey, there's problem after problem after problem after problem after problem after problem. And these problems get bigger as you grow, right? The amplitude of the problem becomes much larger as you grow, right? And so instead of solving dollar problems, we're solving $10 problems, and then we're solving $100 problems, and then we're solving $1,000 problems, and we're solving $1,000,000 problems, right? And so the mistakes matter. And so, yeah, I guess one thing I've learned is that paying for mentorship has by far changed my life so that I can actually solve big problems in real time with people that have been there and done that, rather than be like, well, I certainly hope Joe's going to return my call today. Right?
Yeah,
Because he's a good friend of mine.
I suppose a lot of people out there in the UK, especially, they're not keen on paying people to for like mentorship or consultations and stuff like that. It's like culturally, it's not what we do. We don't like to. We're stubborn and we like to rely on ourselves and not everybody else. And then you've got also like a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there who kind of quietly spend money at home and kind of on these courses and stuff and get scammed a lot, and then they get a bad taste in their mouth for the whole thing. And there's a different attitude in the UK than there is in the States, and I think there is value in finding the right people. But how do you find the right people?
You screen and you be very cautious, but you really look at the results. Like, okay, does this person have the result that I'm after? And then just do your homework. Like, do they actually have the result, or are they just on social media doing the thing? Right. And then if they have the result, then it's like, hey, let's see what they got to say. Look at the reviews, look at testimonials, talk to people that are in the program to see if like they're getting the results. And if they are, then don't be afraid to move forward and do something about it, right? Because a lot of the times, my mentor actually taught me this, and it's so true. The transformation begins at transaction. So where your money goes, your heart follows, right? And so if you have the balls enough to pay for education, then guess what? You're going to transform just inevitably. The education could be so bad, but you inevitably will transform as an individual. And then hopefully the tactics in there can help you get to where you want to go. But even then, your belief in yourself and your conviction level within your own being will be better and greater.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd be rather butthurt if I didn't if I didn't get what I was paying for.
For sure. But to be honest with you, there's different kinds of students. So there's really like three different kinds of students. And I've been a coach now for 2.5 years. And so I've seen this really play out. There's the students, number one, there's the A-level student. They buy into something, and guess what? No matter what, they're going to get the result. You're just a fast track to get there. And no matter how bad your education is or how good your education is, they have 100% conviction that it is, and responsibility that it's on them to learn the material to get them where they want to go. And there's no stopping those people. They are forces with nature. Okay. Then you've got your B-level student. Your B-level student will say, okay, like as long as there's a framework, then I can follow it and I will get that result. And guess what? As long as the coach has any kind of framework that's decent, they'll get the result. Then you got your C-level student that legitimately, like the framework's got to be there and it better be dialed, or else it's not going to be, or they're not going to get there, right? So your coach better be dang good. And then you got your D-level student that, again, like your coach could be amazing, the framework could be the best in the world, and they're just a person that like legitimately can't do things. Like they have to rewire their own self-discipline and their own conviction to get the result. Otherwise, you can't help them.
Yeah, I think with coaching as well, though, I think there needs to be a level of connection, right? It's a relationship at the end of the day. So if you're going to get a coach, you need to have somebody you can connect with in a way that you're going to buy into it. If you're not buying into it, then they're not the right coach for you anyway, right? So there's going to be coaches out there that you just don't vibe with. They're just not the right ones, and you need to kind of figure out before you join any kind of coaching, is this person a good fit for me? Are they going to bring out the best in me?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody vibes with someone different. We all could be saying the same thing, but we all have our own flavor on it. And so you got to make sure that you're magnetized the person that you like.
Yeah, and it probably goes the same way for coaches as well, right? You need to find people that you want to work with, that you enjoy working with, that you can actually have an impact on. Because if you can't have an impact on them, then it's going to be an uphill struggle for you as well. It's just you're just not going to enjoy it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why you call it magnetic marketing. You do magnetic marketing that are polarizing. You polarize the people you don't want to work with, and you attract the people that you do want to work with.
How do you find people that you want to work with? How do you do that?
So I like working with action takers, right? I'm an action taker. Like, you don't have to tell me not to do something. You just need to tell me which way to do it, right? And I'll be like, okay, great, let's do that. So like, and I like working with people that have an entrepreneur mindset. It's like, okay, yes, I believe in maxing out on life. I believe that wealth is a tool. I perhaps am a Christian, right? I am a Christian. And so like those are my people. Like, do you believe in God? Do you believe in maxing out your life? Do you believe that money is a tool, not a character trait, but a tool to help develop whatever your character trait will go to? And then are you bought into like, I'm going to take action. I'm going to go make stuff happen. Right. Like that's my crowd.
Yeah. How do you kind of filter them out though? How do you figure out who's who?
You just make content and you're attracted to people that engage with you. Right. This podcast is content. People are, I can tell you right now, Aaron, based on our conversation, there's going to be employees out there that are listening to this and be like, Wyatt's a real asshole. Like, this guy would be terrible to work for. This guy would be an awful coach. Right. And at the same time, there's going to be people out there that are like, you know what, this Wyatt guy, like, I think he might be onto something. At 30 years old, he did what? Like, I want my life to look like him. Like, and this guy seems like he's really passionate about life. And so I want to do what he's doing because I want to have employees, because I want to help people's family, because I want to help my own family, because I want to have freedom.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what happens on social media, right? Anyway, all the best marketers do polarize people, right? Or not even just the marketers, the people who find fame nowadays and make money from being creators is by polarizing people, so that you find a hardcore group of people that really believe in what you're doing. Seems to be the way that the kind of modern society's gone anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just natural. It is a natural selection of we hang out with people that we like and trust naturally.
Yeah, it's an evolutionary thing, isn't it, as well? That we align ourselves with people that we like, we look up to, or have traits that are either similar to ours, or sometimes it's the traits that fill the gaps that we don't have. But yeah, it's more prevalent now in the social media age. I think the polarization than it ever was before.
Yeah. I mean, that's what social media does. I mean, it is a natural thing that happens. You look at prisons, like in prison, especially unsafe prisons, like you go with your color, right? Like, as stupid as that is, right? Because why see color? But you do in prison, right? And so, we're not in prison, thankfully, and color should be irregarded. We're all people. However, like, this is a natural thing. And so in social media, it's just whatever your flavor is, whatever your personality is on the inside is what social media is going to cause. It's what the algorithm is going to keep showing you as you engage in it more. And it's the world we live in.
Yeah, it's definitely. I do. It does concern me a little bit, though. It's very much becomes like an echo chamber. There's no, because I also believe that you need to challenge your own thinking as well. You need to critically think about stuff, and a lot of people get kind of put in this bubble on social media, and then they put themselves in the same bubble where they think it's never challenged. And how do you grow if you don't challenge yourself? Because I'm not saying what you think is wrong, but what you think, if nobody ever challenges it, then you never actually fill in the gaps and the holes in why you believe something. Even so, like, somebody could challenge it and you could actually strengthen your belief, because you've realized X, Y, and Z. You've thought about the other side of it. But if we never do that, then I think that's a recipe for disaster, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. You should always be challenging why you believe something. If you stick with why long enough, it usually comes back to the fear of I'm not enough and I won't be loved if I don't believe in this, right? Or if I don't do this action. So I ask myself that a lot.
Yeah, and it's important, right? It's important. It is important that we challenge ourselves. We challenge, because by the sound of it, you've changed some of your beliefs as you've gone through, and you wouldn't have done that if you hadn't challenged them and considered other ways of working, other ways of thinking. And I think the first thing to do whenever you're kind of doing anything, really, when you're moving forward, trying to achieve anything, is a mindset shift, really.
Yeah. I don't want to, we could get deep in the woods on this one. But I know I'm getting close on time here. Um, but yeah, there's different conscious levels. And as you move through layers and levels of conscious, it really opens up possibilities and opportunities to grow as an individual and learn more about yourself and your life and your programs as to why you were programmed and all other sorts of things.
Yeah, and a big thing for me as well is that we don't know what we don't know, right? So that's the big thing. Like as you go through life, you'll learn things that you didn't even know that you didn't know.
For sure. Unknown unknowns.
Yeah, man, and that's a big thing for me. That's something that I'm always aware of. There'll be stuff the stuff I know I don't know, but then there's all this other stuff that I have no clue about, and I'm really conscious of that. So I never try to claim to know everything or anything really. I just try and challenge things and challenge things in my own mind, play devil's advocate in other people's opinions, and try and like hash things out in my own mind to try and figure stuff out.
Love it. Well, that's why you're a good host.
I'm trying. I'm still fumbling my way through, but I'm trying. Wyatt, you wrote a book, right?
I did. It's called Your First 100 Units. You can pick it up on Amazon, and it's the real estate investor's playbook to scaling a rental portfolio. And the reason why I wrote it is I literally had so many people that were reaching out to me being like, how did you do this? How did you do this? How did you do this? And so I took 3 weeks. I sat on a park bench and I actually typed everything myself. I didn't do chat GPT, although I probably should have, but I didn't at the time. And yeah, put out just basically everything that I had researched, all the private education I had paid for, and all the books I had read. And I just dumbed it down to like, if you want to learn about real estate, this is the how to go from 0 to 1, how to go from 1 to 10, and then how to go from 10 to 100. Like, and it's really broken up into those 3 sections.
So is it like actionable steps as well that people can kind of take, or is it just the theory behind it?
It's very actionable steps. So it is broken up into 3 sections. 1, how to buy real estate. That's to get you from 0 to 1. Number 2 is how to put in systems, how to systemize real estate. So you don't have to be a chicken with your head cut off, and you can go from 1 to 10. And then the last section is how to scale real estate. That's how to go from 10 to 100. And those are really the phases in an investor's journey, or at least what I found to be.
Yeah, and that's all US based, right? Because that's one of the things I picked up on in reading real estate books is it works very differently in the US to the UK. How you buy property, how you manage it, even like how it's taxed and how you lend money and stuff like that. It does work very differently.
I think it works similarly. It's just UK doesn't have as many tax benefits, right? So it is less from a tax perspective, more of just a wealth creation perspective. And even with that said, I mean, I don't have international students, but I do have out of state students, right? Out of state investors that still use all of these systems to then invest in different states in the United States to take advantage of all these strategies and opportunities that are there.
Yeah, so I don't really know that much about the states either. Is it? I suppose each state has different laws and rules with real estate investment and stuff.
Majority are all the same. So the only thing that's going to be different is your tax rate. Um, but other than that, investing in real estate in any state is going to be very similar on a federal level.
Cool. Fair enough. Um, if somebody wanted to kind of connect with you, then Wyatt, and wanted to learn a little bit more about you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, easiest way is follow me on Instagram at Wyatt Buys Buildings, WYATT, Wyatt Buys Buildings. So you can follow me on Instagram there. I've got some free resources too. So you can go to my website, WyattSimon.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. So I'll drop some content in there bi-weekly at the moment. It might bump up to weekly, but if you just want to learn more, it's really where real estate investors that want to build a portfolio can hang out. And I'll continue to document my journey as we keep growing.
Nice, man. Is that what you do on Instagram? Document stuff as you're going through and your process and what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things that have happened to me, one of my luckiest moments. I was in a mastermind, my first ever mastermind I paid for, and I'm in Utah, and I literally owned 2 real estate properties at the time, right? Like I didn't tell you my third property was a $64,000 failure. Like, and at that point I was like, I need help. And so I hired a coach. And so I got into a mastermind with a coach and everything. So I'm in the Utah mastermind. And one of the guys said, best thing you could ever do is just document your journey on social media. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I started documenting. Anytime I got a property under contract, I would just like take a picture and post it, be like, got a property. And then anytime I closed, I'd be like, got a property. And then anytime I renovated a property, I'd be like, check out this renovation. Right. And so I just started documenting it. And like at first, everyone's like, oh, cool. Good job, Wyatt. And eventually I started buying 5 homes a month. And so it was like I had a full-time job and I'm literally like posting like 2 or 3 times every time I get a house. So it's like 15 or 20 posts, right? Every single month. And everyone's like, dude, how are you doing this? Right. And so everyone started to ask. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. That was why I wrote the book, and then eventually started a coaching company, because even with the book, it's like, I'll give you all the stuff, but people don't pay for the information, they pay for the implementation. So how can I actually apply this to where I'm at to solve the real problems that I specifically have? And so started doing the coaching thing, and dude, it's been awesome. Like my goal is my mission now is to create 100 millionaires through real estate. And we've got 3 so far. So 3 down, 97 to go. And it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, that's important, right? What you said about implementation. I think that's what a lot of people want from kind of coaching and courses and stuff, that they probably feel like they don't get. They get all this information, but they want to know how they can specifically apply it to what they are doing or where they are in their life, right?
Right. And you remember when I talked about the A, B, C, and D students? A students just need the guide. They'll figure it out. B's and C's and D's need the implementation. Right. And by the way, I needed the implementation. So there's no shame. like, dude, I was not an A guy, right? I needed help. I got a 19 on my ACT, which I don't know what that means in the UK, but that means I was not very smart. I was not very intelligent. Okay. I needed to be shown how to do it, and I needed someone to hold my hand to help me do it. But I knew that I would do it if you just could show me. And it worked.
Yeah, and I think the ones that don't need help with the implementation are probably the ones that could go and figure it out themselves anyway, right?
They could, but they still pay for speed, right? Because think about this. If you are not a millionaire yet, right, and you don't have $1 million ticking at 10%, right, that means you're not making $100,000 every single year on interest. Okay. The sooner you get to $1 million making 10% for you every single year, the sooner that starts to compound and make even more and even more and even more. And so the reason why I paid so much in private education is because I understand time is our most valued resource. The more money that we have, the more it can compound. And so that's why people pay for speed.
Yeah, and especially if you're trying to do something new and get out of what you're already doing, because inevitably you might be working or something, and if you're trying to do something else, then you probably need, it's probably worth paying to take that time off to get you there sooner, so you can actually start getting that ball rolling and start doing what you need to be doing.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm telling you, in my life, it took me 2.5 years to buy 3 properties. 2.5 years, no coach, no systems. And the third one, I lost $64,000. And I was like, dude, I hired a coach. Within the next year, I bought 25 properties. Every year after that, I've bought over 25 properties. It just comes down to, there's a system, there's a way to do it. And if you're willing to put in the effort, you don't have to recreate the wheel. You just got to go find someone that has the wheel and copy it.
Yeah, man. Before we bring this episode into a close, do you have any kind of final thoughts or messages that you want to leave people with?
I would just say, if you're sitting there and you still listen to this and you don't think I'm an asshole at this point, then I would say, dude, it's not too late. No matter where you're at in life, you can start building wealth and you can start doing this. And so I would just encourage you to take a good, honest look at your finances and just be like, dude, is this where I really want to be? And if not, then it's dude, don't let another day pass without doing something about it. Go out there and go find a way to generate more income so that you can go live a life on your terms. Because the sooner you figure it out, like, your life unlocks and you can do whatever you want. And so don't give up on your dreams. It's possible.
Yeah, man. Wyatt, thank you for sharing your time with us and sharing your knowledge with us. I really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Aaron. I appreciate you.
My pleasure, man. Take care.
All right. Peace. All right. We made it, Aaron. We made it.
We survived. Bear with me a second. Let me just try and get rid of this. Bring this back down here. Oh, there you go. Oh, yours is uploaded already. Mine will be sorted shortly. Beautiful.
All right. Are those going live like right away, or are you
The
chopping things
live
up
is
and then
live.
posting?
Yes, it'll already be